Can a Catholic esteem false religions? The answer is simply no and yes. And not so simple, eh? Well, as St. Paul shows us, we can esteem a false religion for what it has that is positive. But we cannot look upon a false religion and label it the true religion. But we can praise the truths that can be found within it, even if the fullness of the faith cannot be found within. Examining St. Paul on this very issue, we read, and we're going to be examining Acts 17:22. Then Paul stood up at the Areopagus and said, "You Athenians, I see that in every respect you are very religious." The Greek term used here is Anti-Sedevacantists. He later proceeds to say that the pagans are offspring of God. The Greek term gnos. It is clear that the pagans were not worshipping God in the Orthodox sense. But nevertheless, Paul recognizes their religiosity, praises it, and then tells them it's time to turn towards Christ. Moving on to question number 2. Are anti-Catholic Protestants heretics? The answer is not possible to answer with a clear yes or no. First off, a mere layperson such as Peter Dimond, or even myself for that matter, are not going to have the ability to look into a person's heart and be able to say that he is generally heretical or not. As I have shown, in order to fulfill the biblical mandate for what a heretic is, several factors must come into play according to Catholic theology. Is a person full well in their ability to discern the faith they have adopted? Is a person that is anti-Catholic versed in the truth or a distortion of the truth? Peter Dimond thinks that he can do what only God can do, and that is look into the hearts of people and label them heretics for what he thinks are the right reasons. Peter Dimond also cites satis cognitum. It's unfortunate that satis cognitum does not support his position. Satis cognitum contains irrelevant patristic citations from Augustine and Cyprian that tell us that one is a heretic for the very reason that they separate themselves from the church. In order to distort satis cognitum to his liking, Peter Dimond must show that the head of our church, the Pope, or any of the popes he labels as heretics, don't share in our communion, our koinonia, and our faith. I dare say he cannot. Number 3. Can one be a Catholic if one regards the Eastern Orthodox as in the Church of Christ? The answer is absolutely. It is no doubt that the Eastern Orthodox, in their variant forms of theology, have elements that are very similar to the Catholic faith. Where we differ will be in certain aspects that usually deal with the papacy. As many know, other than that issue, there isn't a lot of divide amongst modern-day Orthodox and Catholic. I recently had a very long dialogue with a high-standing Eastern Orthodox priest, and when we discussed the differences and the likenesses, we realized that there wasn't a great divide as there was in the past. To praise the Eastern Orthodox is not in and of itself heretical, because the praises that are given towards them are for the likenesses that they share with us. The arguments Peter Dimond puts forth are so weak that I wouldn't think anyone would actually think they're damaging. First off, Vatican I is clear that those that are Catholic are bound to accept the reality of the papacy and all its divine truths. It is not possible to bind an individual that is not in the church. Secondly, the Orthodox are in the church in the sense that they have elements of the truth that they share with us. They do not hold the fullness of the faith. Number 4, may Catholics lawfully receive Holy Communion? The answer to this is quite simple. I don't understand why Peter Dimond would pose this as if this can prove that the see is vacant. But anyhow, you will see the Code of Canon Law flash across your screen. I simply don't have enough time to read it all out. But under cases of extremity, they definitely can receive Holy Communion. And moving on to question number 5. Does Benedict believe that the Orthodox must accept Vatican I? Benedict believes that everyone must accept Vatican I, or should at least. But the Pope also realizes that it is impossible to get everyone in the world to accept the Catholic faith to its fullest. This is the reason that Benedict has said to Archbishop Chrysostomos II that he has much optimism and firm hope of uniting the churches. This wouldn't be the case if Benedict believed that the Orthodox were fully part of the church. In order to unite the churches, Benedict knows that there would be stumbling blocks. If Benedict didn't believe everyone had to accept Vatican I and its teachings, then it is a truth that we would be united to the Orthodox by now. It wouldn't be a stumbling block if Benedict had tossed Vatican I out the window. Moving on to number 6, and the longer one. Is it possible for a true pope to magisterially teach what a previous true pope condemned? And specifically dealing on Vatican II's teaching on religious liberty. Well, first things first, answering briefly, we must be careful to note that Vatican II's declaration on religious freedom is different from the previous explanations the Church has released on this topic. Vatican II formulates and puts forth its own teaching on religious freedom. Now, this is not to say that its own teaching is now abrogating the previous ones, and therefore making them null and void. That would be impossible. But rather, due to the times we live in, Vatican II's teaching on religious freedom is clearly touching upon our present circumstances. It is clear when it says that human beings have rights for the very reason that, quote, the very dignity of the human person, as known through the revealed Word of God and by reason itself, is a divinely revealed truth. When we examine this document in depth, we see that it is talking about something other than that was tackled by Pope Pius IX and Leo XIII. The popes of the 1800s had a privilege that the popes of our own day do not have. The governments that were being addressed in most instances ruled over completely Catholic areas, or areas in which Catholicism was the dominant faith. The great privilege of those times was that back then the governments existed that had no issue with enforcing such important rules and practices, as the ones being addressed were specifically Catholic countries. In today's day and age, Vatican II is addressing something completely different. As we will later see during various times of church history, the Church has touched upon the reality of religious freedom, and each time it has had a different answer, based on the period of time in which the issues are addressed. We can clearly see that the Church has always believed that no one can be coerced to faith. Faith is an internal action that must work through love. Faith working through love is the only thing that matters, as Galatians 5 tells us. To coerce is not to love, and it is not an act of faith. If we read and examine the Second Council of Nicaea from 787, our 7th Ecumenical Council, we read, "Let them be Hebrews openly according to their own religion." The Second Council of Nicaea was addressing the issue of Jews that were falsely portraying themselves as Catholics. As such, this wasn't faith in its important motion of working itself out in an individual through love. Salvific faith and salvific works do not come from coercion. Nicaea realized this and ordered them to practice their own faith in the open. Furthermore, Nicaea realizes that one has religious freedom in and of themselves, and they should come to the Catholic faith on their own, and they will be fully accepted. At this period of time, this was an issue in the Catholic religion, specifically what Nicaea is dealing with. As the Church would progress and the world would change, we can see that in the proclamation of the Syllabus of Errors, it was clearly fine to say that every man had to embrace Catholicism, because the state and the world were predominantly Catholic. Furthermore, the Syllabus of Errors and other documents show us that during this time it was not tolerable to publicly profess another faith in a Catholic country. This message to us on religious freedom was addressing something completely different. Since the Sedevacantists love to quote St. Thomas Aquinas, as if everything he says is dogma, we will wonder if Aquinas held the heretical beliefs when he said that non-Catholics can be accepted as long as some good ensues therefrom, or because of some evil avoided. The Church has tolerated the rights even of heretics and pagans when unbelievers were very numerous. Pope Leo XIII in Immortali Dei. The Church is also very careful that nobody be forced to join the Catholic faith against his will. For, as Augustine widely admonishes, only he who wills so can believe. This is the Catholic faith, not the distortion that Sedevacantism has set upon us. Sedevacantism has no answers, and I want answers. I'm still waiting for the answers in relation to the biblical Greek terms, to the Ecclesiastical Latin. It has no answers, and I will continue asking for answers. God bless.